Hello everybody, it's Siobhan here, the Galloping Housewife. I'm actually on the way home from the yard today. As I left home this morning, I had my youngest child with me, dropping him off at the rugby club so that he could catch a bus up to Strathaven, going north anyway, to do the videoing for the first 15. And yeah, so my husband's away at the moment. He's away for the weekend, which is just marvellous. I mean that in the nicest possible way. It's when you live together and work together, and with us not being able to get out and about as much as we normally do, sometimes it is really nice to not have the house to yourself. I mean, I've got the kids at home and the dog at home and the cat at home and the goats at home. But yeah, just at least have a bit of space, really. I wholeheartedly believe in people having their own interests, and part of that is really cool to be able to get away and go to the yard, having the horses off site. But I mean, even if they're on site, you go to a yard, go into a different space. So it's nice to have the place to myself for the weekend. And my husband is down with our other business, which we import products from New Zealand, kind of allied health products from New Zealand, and sell them for the horses and dogs and humans. So he's down at a trade show, I guess. It's the National Running Show in Birmingham for the weekend, and staying with some really good friends of ours in Stafford as well, which is a nice opportunity because we don't get to do much at the moment. It's just like shit life. And actually that's kind of what I'll be talking about a little bit later, but and so I went out to the yard. I was going to do something with the horses, but it's my yard owner is having a day off, and actually the girl that is there that looks after the yard on the day off she takes like a couple of hours break in the middle of the day, the 3-hour break in the middle of the day. The horses stand in for the day, and I just don't like riding and doing stuff when I'm on my own. I need, especially with David being away, if anything happened, it'd be a long time before I get found. So I went and patted them on the nose. They look happy, they're standing and bored, but okay. And I will go out there tomorrow and spend a bit of time with them. I'm actually going to try and get there nice and early tomorrow so that I can have time to bath them as well, because they're now back on turnout, which is cool. But they're filthy. That's mud, but that's winter and that's horses. And you might notice that I have got a certain glow about me today. I stopped, obviously the dog's with us, so I've got him with me, stopped and took him for a walk. Well, I'm kind of like doing some walk jogging. I'm doing the couch to 5k again, just to get back up to be able to do some running for fitness, because as you know, that I am not in the shape that I would like to be in, and I do enjoy a little bit of trail running, so so I stopped, and actually right by the rugby club is a really nice trail by the river, so I dropped the boy off and went for a wee kind of walk and jog thing. If you know that I'm up to week 4, so 3-minute, 5-minute jogs, so we've got ran for a total of 16 minutes. Wow, progress. But I have this thing where I blush, so every time I exercise, and it doesn't matter what it is, but I every time I get my heart rate up, I go this kind of beet red, and it's now it's a good hour since I stopped exercising, and it normally lasts about 2 hours, and back in the days when I was super running with the local Harriers group, and doing off-road half marathons and that sort of thing. You might have seen a couple of the pictures that I put up, and I would go into work early when I was nursing, and I would go for a run from work because we had really good in Hamilton. We have the city that where I was based, we had really good trails, really good places to run from work. And so I'd go back to work, and I'd have my shower, and I would put my scrubs on, and I'd go to work, and I'd be 2 hours or more into my shift, and people would be saying, "Are you okay? You look really flushed." And it's like, yeah, I'm fine. I just went for a run. It's like, oh God. So if you're like me, if you do this sort of thing, then no, you're not alone. It's it's just dreadful. And also know that you have to plan your stuff so that if you're going out or being seen in public, that you allow some time to recover. Like I said, what I was going to talk about was I just read a post on Facebook from one of my really good friends who lives in the States. She's in Pennsylvania, and she's a lawyer, and has worked on some really prominent public cases, has worked for the DA's office in Washington, and she's also quite an activist, and she did work on Hillary Clinton's campaign for the 2016 election. Anyway, she posted a bit about going out and marching on the Women's March, and that was held in must have been this time of the year, because I think it was a memory that came up that she reposted, and it was in 2017. And she talked about the idealism of getting out and marching for something that you believe in, and thinking that the world was going to change, seeing all these people out there that had opinions, altruistic opinions about the rights of women, the rights of minorities, the rights of the less fortunate, and that there were people out there that actually believed that these people were worth listening to, that they needed a voice, that they had rights that were worth protecting. And she talked about the fact that over the last, it was 4 years of Trump's presidency, and then the pandemic, and about how, with the division, about how it's really difficult to maintain that sense of optimism. And here in the UK, we have and it's not just the political system. So the political system is part of it, and it feeds it, but it's also the division that we have amongst people about the real partisanship of that we see in our daily lives. And here in the UK, it's and especially at the moment, I'm recording this as January 2022, and it's our political system is crumbling. We don't have anything that resembles a democracy. We have corrupt politicians, and I've been talking about it for a long time. Initially, when we have had issues with our immigration, I became more politically aware and as to how they were treating minorities and refugees and family migrants to this country, and globally as well. It's not uniquely a UK thing. Obviously, we've been aware for years about what happens in the States, and and even places that I think are less corrupt. Australia was terrible prior to all of this with Nauru and everything. But I've heard some really sad cases coming out of New Zealand as well. So no one's immune to this. So that's how I started, sort of being more and more politically aware. I've always kind of been a little bit of a socialist, just believing that people have rights, but not active at all. And then when the COVID hit, and the decisions that were made around that here and continue to be made, but the decisions that were made initially were just appalling. They were against science. They just had made no sense. And in the States, you had Trump in charge at the time. I don't know. I would hope to God that Hillary Clinton would have been more intelligent, but I'm not sure that you're getting any better decisions out of Biden either. So that is or any better, stronger leadership, and I don't know whether he's been curtailed by by the House and stuff at the moment. But I mean, the decision after decision after decision here, and the messaging here in the UK has just been atrocious. It's been wrong, and we've got 170,000 dead people and the last estimate from the ONS was that we had 1 million newly disabled people in the UK as a result of the decisions by our government. And now we've got kids dying. We've got kids, healthy kids, that are dying, all because well, I mean, at the moment it's we've got a small number of backbenchers in the UK Parliament that our leadership needs to be able to move forward with policy. So they are doing everything they can to keep schools open, to keep restrictions as little as possible, to keep the so-called economy going, and are sacrificing our children. It's yes, your numbers are going down from Omicron. It's great, because we've got we've got good vaccination levels and all that type of stuff, but they're leaping ahead, leaps and bounds in the in children and in the under 12s especially, and it's like how people can stand by and watch that happen. It's just beyond me, and there's just no excuse for it. It's just like, it's purely a political decision to make this. There's no argument about the fact that they should be doing more in schools to protect kids and their teachers, but and it's so short-sighted. I mean, this whole thing about protecting the fucking economy, and keeping schools open, it's like, well, if they actually did it properly, if they actually had measures in place, our economy would be more open, and the schools would be more protected, and the kids would be there, and well, if they'd actually done it properly right from the beginning, we'd actually be mask free and beyond this fucking pandemic. So anyway, so it's that whole sort of like, so that's my little rant, and leaves you under no illusion. And I'm, I have to say, I grew up in a conservative household. My parents both were national voters, and which is Conservatives or Republicans. I'm pretty sure my mum still votes that way. We talk a bit about politics, but I'm not entirely sure that that's. I honestly don't know how the rest of my family vote, but that was that was the kind of background that I was brought up in, and so I'm not without understanding of both sides of the political argument. I mean, I'm white, grew up middle class. I am as privileged, as you kind of get in society. Got a good education, and parents stayed together and all those sorts of things. But equally, I also grew up with reasonably global in our outlook. We had I was born in Korea. My father spent a lot of time in the Middle East and Asia for work. He worked for the World Bank for a number of years in agriculture. So we are nomads. My brother sailed around the world, and I've lived in a number of countries, and we also had like a very diverse kind of friendship group. My parents had a very diverse friendship group, both around ethnicity and socioeconomic background. We had friends from I think I might have even said on one of these vloggy things a while ago, it would be, we would, around the dinner table, we'd have everything from prime ministers and CEOs one day to, the mechanic down the road who was one of my dad's best friends, and, our farm workers were always in our house and using our pool and coming away on holiday with us, and it's like, and my dad picked up hitchhikers and all sorts of stuff. So I mean, like we there was no so while my parents and family were reasonably fiscally conservative, I also grew up with a great appreciation for people of all backgrounds, and them all having worth and value in our lives, on a very personal basis. So I guess that was a little bit unique from some of the very narrow backgrounds that a lot of people who have conservative leanings have had. And so I've become a little bit of an idealist, and I am very much in that, I call myself a champagne socialist. I am someone that really wholeheartedly believes that that human rights, that things like healthcare and somewhere to live and something to eat are actually human rights. They're not, they're not something that should be left to chance. And I think that the state has a responsibility to make sure that these things are provided, and education as well. I think education should be available to all, and I'm quite prepared, as someone that can afford it, to pay my taxes to get those things available to people. So I would say that it is really tough, and I spend quite a bit of time, probably too much time, on Twitter, anonymous at the moment for various reasons, and it's really difficult when you see the amount of hate out there, and partisanship, and the fact that we've lost the ability to communicate from both sides. We've lost the ability to realise that, to respect each other, and that's hard. And I see here in the UK the erosion of democracy, the tightening up of things like voters' rights. So here in the UK, we're now needing people to have photo ID, which I believe is happening in the US, or the possibility of it is happening in the US. So there's a move to require photo ID here. Well, 30% of the black population, or the people of colour, I think, is it people of colour or black population? Actually, I'm not sure of the exact stat, but I do know that one of those minority groups, 30% of them do not have a passport, do not have any photo, do not have a driver's license, so they don't have any photo ID, and so it will be something that they need. It's another step to inhibit them from going and being able to vote, and it's just not okay. It's just unacceptable that that these sort of things should be put in place, and that's going to, especially something that's going to specifically impact a minority group. They need to have their voices heard. We've had the police and sentencing bill going through here, that fortunately has been knocked back at the House of Lords stage, but it's yet to be seen what happens with our ability to protest. So if we've got anything that we want to hit the streets about, we're going to become criminalised for actually having an opinion, and the right to protest is just fundamental to a democracy. The redoing of the constituency borders, so that which means that gives more weight to conservative oh, he's going in there, which gives more weight to conservative voters. Having a first past the post system, for fuck's sake, team. It's like, and I know the US is exactly the same, but get with the program. It's like, true democracy is about having every vote counting, and in a first past the post system it simply doesn't happen. It's like, we need to be able to have our voices heard. We need to have some sort of proportional representation. In New Zealand we've had MMP since 93, I think we voted on it. Don't know whether it was introduced that year or not, but I remember voting for it. But it's and people go, oh well, then you will have got coalition governments. It's like, well, yes, and that's what democracy is. Democracy is about having compromise, about every voice having value, about getting together and figuring out how to govern a country based on what the people have voted for. It's just like, that's simply a no-brainer, and it really frees you up as far as voting goes, to vote for the party that you want to have in power. There's virtually nowhere in the UK that you could vote Green. Brighton is the only constituency, with Carol Lucas. That's the only constituency that you can vote Green for your MP. Obviously there's Green councillors and things on various town and county councils. But the so if you are at all oriented towards a Green vote, you're wasting your time. You're actually wasting your vote if you put it, if you tick that box outside of Brighton, and that's just not right. That is not right. It's and people go on about having unelected officials, because you'll end up with, in most systems, STV, single transferable vote, you won't end up with unelected people, because your vote just goes for the next one down. But then you don't have a party share, which reflects what people what people would actually vote for if they knew that their vote was going to count. So you talk about having list MPs and you pick people off lists. Yeah, we've got a fucking House of Lords, for God's sake. It's like, don't talk to me about having unelected officials, which, yeah, that was the vote against Brexit. It's unelected officials. It's like, yeah, really? Anyway, so I'm having quite the rant here. And it's, and I just kind of feel that inability, and people feel voiceless, and that's why, and I think that is part of what my friend was saying when she was talking about having losing that idealism of when they went out to march and feeling that they were going to make a change, and now that's not happening. It's if we don't have a voice, if we're not being heard, if things aren't changing, it is really difficult to keep being idealistic, or keep thinking that things might change. But I'm going to encourage you. I think that it is not just our right, but it is our responsibility to keep fighting for those things that we think are right. And both sides of the equation, make your voice heard, keep speaking up, keep nudging it, keep dreaming of your ideal future. I mean, my ideal future is somewhere where everyone is respected and everyone feels that they have value, and no one is wondering where their next meal is coming from, or worried about going bankrupt if they have a accident or a health diagnosis that needs treatment. It's or worried about whether their kids can afford to go to college or, God forbid, school. So that is my own personal idealism. That's what the future that I dream of, where no one's discriminated against for any protected characteristic. It's I mean, for me, I think that's right. I think that is pretty much the only way to think. I think that it's, as a good person, but I acknowledge that there are people out there that will think differently from me, and that's okay. It's fine. But I just encourage you, wherever you are, to keep fighting for your voice, your right to be heard, and especially keep voting for your right to vote. That's really, really important. Okay, I've gone on really bloody long today, so congratulations if you've got to this point, and I'm just at my gate now, so where I have to get out of the car to unlock, and I will see you tomorrow, definitely. All right, bye now.